All right, let's get into some domestic politics, including the latest scandal for the Queensland Labor government. Joining me, broadcaster and the man who brilliantly filled in for my colleague Andrew Bolt over the last fortnight, Mr. Chris Smith.
You're far too kind.
Chris Smith. Oh, stop it. You were a rock star. People loved having you around, Sky, and we hope more of it continues. I want to look north to Queensland. We'll get back to New South Wales because there's more developments there today. But the saga with the Palaszczuk government, as I outlined at the start of the show tonight, you've got one side of the corridor with the Treasurer in trouble about dealings she had and calls she made to the Corruption Commissioner and not disclosing property from her husband that was related to decisions on her desk. Pretty grubby, all of that, if it stacks up, if that's what the findings turn up. But on the other side, in the Premier's own office, she's got a chief of staff, and I've been there, I've done that job, who was running a business on the side, serious $100,000 type investments, and also out there trying to get government grants. Now, I don't think you can scratch it yourself if you're a chief of staff, so I don't know how he did it, and I don't know that it's above board.
No, and in both instances, Peter, they are lay-down misere conflict of interest. We've now got a development with the chief of staff in that the Crime Commission has said if these allegations are right, this fits under a typical breach, a breach that they could possibly handle. So it goes one step further to the seriousness of why he should have been put aside, told to go home, go on leave for a while until this is all sorted out, as should Jackie Trad. Now, you summed it up beautifully as to the classic conflict of interest that they face. But here is Anastasia Palaszczuk. She's already seen a really telling poll from last week that says the Queenslanders are not buying the fact that Jackie Trad is still in Parliament. Now, they're going to cop it this week over and over again because of both these instances, so they can't get their message out. They can't govern. They can't run Queensland. They are absolutely hamstrung because she has strapped them to her shoulders and she's sinking in the quicksand, Anastasia Palaszczuk. Now, I'm sure they're very close, and you've suggested, what has Jackie Trad got on the Premier? Who knows? They are very close. You work very close with your Treasurer as a Prime Minister, and your Chief of Staff is your right-hand person. Understand all of that, but you don't become loyal to the death, because they'll get what they ask for, and all three of them will die a very quick political death if Anastasia Palaszczuk is not careful.
Yeah, look, as I said, this is not political scuttlebutt. This isn't just, you know, one side inside the machine trying to do over the other side. That you often get all of that in politics. I copped a bit of that myself. This is black and white.
Yep.
Did they have money exchange in relation to property? Yes, they did. Were there decisions on her desk? Yes, there was. Was he making investments as Chief of Staff? Yes, he was. Now, someone else will judge whether they were appropriate or not, whether they fit a probity test or not. But it's going to be, you know, a showdown on the OK Corral tomorrow in Question Time between these two women. Let's have a listen to some comments that are already out there today.
The letter from the CCC clearly explains that if proven, this conduct would amount to corrupt conduct. Look, Anastasia Palaszczuk needs to do the right thing and sack her Chief of Staff. Anastasia Palaszczuk's Chief of Staff has taken public money. It doesn't pass the pub test.
There's currently an audit that's being conducted at present, and my understanding is that the Director-General is keeping the CCC up to date. The matter is under assessment by an independent audit investigation, so can we just let that process happen?
Is there a chance he might have to, you know, come...
I'm not dealing with hypotheticals. I'm not dealing with hypotheticals, okay?
Yeah, well, as I said, I'm going to get my cup of tea and sit down tomorrow and listen to Question Time in Queensland. I might even try and get someone on tomorrow night to unpack the day, because it will be fireworks, I can guarantee you of that. OK, let's move now down to the ongoing brouhaha over this abortion legislation in New South Wales. It is not going away for the Premier. I outlined tonight some polling that was out today. 80%, 83.9% of people, left and right, Chris here, left and right, do not want to see abortions based on gender, and almost 70%, 69.8%, that is very high, do not support what I'll call late-term abortions, abortions after 22 weeks, when an unborn child is likely to survive if delivered outside the womb. So surely the Premier's got to back down.
Has to back down, because if she didn't realise that she was sort of on the wrong track, train. She did when this came out this morning. This Galaxy poll is a no-brainer. It basically says she got it wrong big time, and those that would normally support her through thick and thin do not support her on this one. They didn't like to be ambushed for a start, because I reckon in politics, when you ambush the electorate or the parliament, you look arrogant. And, of course, that was what they were accused of 3 years ago when they did a few things, including the greyhound ban, without talking to interested parties or even putting it out there for discussion amongst the electorate. So, firstly, she's wangled that badly. I don't know whether she was on that Hawaiian holiday when she gave this some consideration, but it sounds like she was. Maybe Brad Hazzard was over there as well, the health minister, because they've got this so badly wrong, and it really does show up a lack of political nous from the New South Wales Premier. And I didn't think I'd actually say this. It's almost Turnbull-esque. You know, the way he ran the second last federal election, the way he bundied off at midday, a lack of political nous with so many policy announcements, including a sex ban in Parliament, all that sort of rubbish. This is in the same category. And if you didn't get the message that you were too arrogant and you actually haven't done your due diligence on the incrementals of this bill, well, she got the message loud and clear this morning.
That is a very powerful point, because I think the old abortion debate, if I can call it that, from many years ago, used to be about abortion or no abortion. Yep. And it was very much in those binary terms. You can see in that polling, 20% are abortion regardless of the term of the child or the pregnancy, term of the pregnancy, and the others are violently against abortion in any shape or form. Most of the people polled sit somewhere in the middle. They accept an early term abortion and they do think there should be change. But I think the Premier has misread that acceptance of short-term abortion as being abortion per se for the whole time of the 9-month pregnancy, and that's not where the public are. And as I said, left and right, I haven't seen polling numbers like that, 70% and 80% for a long time. And it's not as if, Chris, people have felt they've had their voices heard, that this issue has been ventilated. It's been sprung on them. It's been sprung on her colleagues. And when you are the leader of a party and 2/3 of your own side sit with Labor across from you, that should send the alarm bells ringing. And she needs to, really come back from this and come back from this fast. But people in the party I talk to say they have tried to talk to the Premier, but she is not listening.
It's just unbelievable. And I don't think as you rightly described at the beginning of the program, I don't think the upper house is going to save her here. I think they're going to gang up to extend and compound the embarrassment that she faces right now. And she could lose some permanent bark in the electorate, and then what good is she politically to the coalition?
Just a quick one before we go, because I know, for many years you've been looking at this issue since it unfolded. You obviously know about the terrible incidents in London, the Greenwich fires, but $6.2 billion is what the estimate is in relation to the cladding crisis right across Australia. $6.2 billion. That's a huge amount of money, because right now we've got people out of their homes, unable to pay their mortgages, having to rent somewhere else, or unable to sell their homes, I have to say, and probably having trouble with their mortgages because they've obviously got to cover rent somewhere else. It's now just almost in every state and territory that there are concerns. Unions and others, construction sector, are out there saying that we're letting this dodgy cladding into the country, that there's not enough certification. People are concerned also with the way we've privatised building inspection. So, people say caveat emptor, buyer beware, but buyers are trusting that the government's own system that gives you a certificate of occupancy is robust and sound, but there are real questions. And how is it all going to be fixed, Chris? Well,
and it's a real big hit on the real estate market, especially for apartments. People are looking at this now and saying, I'm not getting near that new apartment building. I won't be buying off the plan for sure, and I'll have to get someone in who's trained and qualified to look at the building carefully before I even consider. So firstly, it's a hit on the real estate market. But when you think about it, what's the answer? You've got thousands of apartment buildings. Think about thousands of apartment buildings involving 170,000 apartments, single apartments. They are all in danger of being the victim of a serious fire if it would be further ignited by this flammable cladding. Like, you think about the numbers involved there. And the builders have since gone either bust or the the time at which they have to pay back or rectify their problem, that's expired. So that you won't find the builders to chip in to try and fix it. Are the owners going to do that? They don't have the money to do that. And should the taxpayer do it? Well, the taxpayer's had a gutful of bailing people out. So what's the answer? And then you look at the hundreds, we're talking hundreds, not 3 in Sydney, buildings that are also alleged to be faulty. What's the answer there? Once again, most of the builders are gone. See you later, alligator. They've gone under something else 7 years later, so they're not held responsible. Does the government bail them out? Does the taxpayer want to bail them out? There's just no answer, and the problem is massive.